Hello, everyone. Marie Jones here. I wanted to share some of my thoughts and what has been shared from the Facebook support group. Geriatric parole may be considered compassionate for the criminals who commit the most heinous crimes. However, for those of us that have had loved ones ripped from our lives, it's cruel and torturous punishment. Under the guidelines of geriatric parole, it's only based on the age, and if it meets the criteria of 60-10 or 65-5, there's zero compassion of said sentence or crime committed. The victim, family, and friends have to plead with the parole board every 1 to 3 years or until he or she dies. When this law was originally passed, the legislators could not have seen the far-reaching effects of this law for the victims and survivors, and the pain and trauma they would have to relive and constantly endure. The criminal justice system has sentenced them to prison for their crimes. Geriatric parole can actually negate and override a judge's sentence by allowing them a chance to get out of prison early. It's a get out of jail free card, if you will. Geriatric parole law tells the victims and families that the monster that brutally murdered, raped, and or tortured their loved one is more important and should be allowed the opportunity to re-offend. Geriatric parole law also allows these monsters to re-victimize the victims and families behind bars over and over again. It rips the Band-Aid off and causes the victim and families to relive those horrific moments surrounding one of the most traumatic events in their life, never allowing that wound to heal. Learning how to live again without our loved one is the most difficult, especially when it's by a horrific act of violence, tainting the memories and experience that we should treasure the most. Geriatric parole causes disruption to the victim and family within every area of our life, not just with the severity of the crime, but having to relive it over and over again. Many struggle with PTSD, stress, anxiety, and sleep issues. Some even struggle with agoraphobia. Their world gets turned upside down year after year, and even in between. Geriatric parole, excuse me. Geriatric parole is cruel and unusual punishment for victims and families of heinous crimes committed by criminals who should be, at the very least, required to serve the entirety of their sentence. Victims and families are denied the chance to start learning how to live again without their loved one, to try to find a little peace and closure by our justice system that should be protecting us. Is there hope for us as victims and families? Where is our peace? Where is our justice? We are taking a stand. We are the voice for our loved ones. We will continue to fight to change this law so hundreds of unheard voices enduring this pain and tragedy can start finding some peace and closure, helping those wounds to begin to heal. Those scars will always be there, but the pain would be reduced tremendously by not having these wounds tore open repeatedly by this unjust law. Justice for Lexie and all those who don't have a voice but need a unified voice to fight for justice and peace. Please support Lexie's law. Thank you, everyone.